welcome to Giulia Maffei.
Ecco.
We share the same surname, so welcome for the second time here. If you agree, just because I gave a message to our audience that we were waiting for this final technical check, I would start the presentation and the conversation with you. So let me introduce you very briefly, just because we used already 10 minutes, and we are here to present not only a project that is Entonode, but to, I don't know how to say, designer, researcher, or researcher designer,
Both.
because your background is different. Giulia Tacchini, that I know well since her study here in Politecnico, and Giulia Maffei, that I know for the first time here, but is the other part of Entonode project, that is a researcher, a scientific communicator. So I'm kind of very respectful, because it is adding a kind of scientific take to the discussion. And I think that the scope of this evening is obviously introduce the project and introduce a discussion about alternative foods, even if we could not really define an alternative, just because they are a reality still. And starting from that, I think we could perhaps embrace a discussion together also with our audience about what is the future of food system, taken that we have this opportunity or strategy or innovation that we could bring into everyday life, that is eating insects, so different kind of food, and which are probably the challenges at the barrier to really achieve this result. And I think you are like forerunner in this, so we wait for hear from you what are, in your opinion, the real strategy that we have to pursue just to introduce this as a common element in our daily life. So I leave you the stage to both the Julias here, and yes, I listen to your presentation.
Okay, thank you, Stefano. Good evening to everyone. So thank you, Stefano, and thank you for inviting us. It's a pleasure to share our experience and our project with all of you. I'm going to share a presentation so you can see more what we are talking about. So so yes, we are Giulia and Giulia. Giulia Maffei is a biologist and scientific communicator. I am a food designer. And we have approach about entomophagy, so eating insects, so from different point of view. And our passion for edible insects lead us to found in 2015 Entonode, a cultural association and the first Italian entomophagy science communication company. Both me and Giulia found in edible insects a sort of very interesting thing. We know that edible insects are very tiny, but at the same time, they have a very big potential. So with Entonode, we start to create our website. We start to do some workshop. We write our first book, An Insect in the Plate, a small guide of our future food. And from January 2017, we start the format called Entoexperience. So a sort of path where you can approach for the first time to edible insects. But let's see what is our goal, our aim. So why me and Giulia decide from 2015, so already 10 years, to continue to speak and to make research around edible insects. Our goal and our aim is to spread information about the edible insect world. When we talk about edible insects, we talk about history, food culture, science, sustainability, future. So it's a very multidisciplinary approach when we decide to talk about edible insects. So here you can see some pictures from our dinner Entoexperience with people, some workshop, and some of our recipe that we in this year find to help people to approach and appreciate this kind of food. But let's see now with Giulia why, when we talk about edible insects, we are also talk about future food.
Okay, so why we started talking about insects is first of all, of course, because it's a strange subject and we like strange subjects, and second of all, because we have been listening a lot about problems related to high level of meat consumption, and these have increased the scientific interest in analyzing new sources of protein, and so new solution, and insects have been considered one of the candidates for as a substitute of meat. The first one talking about it was the FAO, and together with the FAO, other international organization, they started talking about insects as a possible interesting alternative to protein, to meat protein. They started talking about it different years ago, because it was in 2008. And from then on, with Expo and with increasing research in the subject, the interest have been growing a lot. And we thought that the most important thing at that point was to inform people, because a lot of people were really skeptical about it, and they actually didn't really know a lot about insects, and most of the people didn't even know that it was possible to eat insects. So why they are so interesting? They are so interesting because, first of all, they have a very low impact on the environment. Compared to a cow, as you see from the graph here, they consume much more water. We are talking about 15,000 times less water. They consume, they need a little space. They eat much less food to give the same amount of protein. And also they have a much lower impact in terms of gas emission. So this is one of the points why they are so interesting. And the second point is from a nutritional point of view. As they are here in this graph, you see how much biomass conservation index. So it means that with the same amount of food, the amount of meat that you actually produce, and the amount of manure that this produce. So they are very convenient from this point of view as well. And last but not least, they have a very
I think that we have a problem with the audio. Stefano, you can...
but not only.
Yes.
Okay,
connection.
now, Giulia, we lost you this 10 seconds, so you can
okay, I'm sorry.
Introduce
so,
the nutrition part.
I was saying that we speak about insects talking about protein, but they are not rich in protein only. They are really rich in iron, they are really rich in fat, and we usually speak about the good fat. So the famous omega-3, for example, that we find a lot in fish, for example. But they are also rich in carbohydrates, in calcium and protein, in vitamin as well, like the B12 that is very rare to find in vegetables. So they are really interesting from this point of view as well. So as I said before, as they are so curious as a food, we decided to concentrate on the communication, because this is the big problem in the European country in this moment. Actually, the situation is getting better, but as we start, it wasn't that common to talk about insects.
Yeah. In fact, the question today is, so we saw that insects are very rich from a nutritional point of view. We saw that insects are a very sustainable food, because they really need an amount of resource that it's very less than other food. So how can we find new ways to integrate insects in our daily diet? So as Antonote, with the experience from our work in these last 10 years, we understand that we have to pass step by step. So the first step, as we say, is information, and not just information in general, but right and good information. And thanks also from the two different education experience that me and Julia has, we always find a way to communicate to the public. So both research that came from scientific, but also general research. Second point is the food education. Food education today is fundamental because through the food education we can understand more what means that a food has an impact on the environment, okay? Usually while we eat something, we are not thinking, oh my God, this meat, this salad, this carrot, this almond, where it comes from, what is the impact on the food. So also food education starting from children is very, very important. Third point is the awareness. So find a way that this information and food education help us to be more aware of what the food system is leading us. We know that today what is happening in the food system has an impact on not just on the environment, but on the climate change, on the problem of cultural migration, and so go on. The fourth point is the regulation. European Parliament is from around these last 5 years that is working on food regulation about edible insects, and probably many of you has known that in this January it passed a law where we can find on the market in Europe one type of insects. So the regulation step by step is finding space to let also us to find insects in the market. And the last step that is again fundamental is the cultural change. Cultural change that probably is something a little bit difficult for us, but for other people it will be not so difficult. Why I'm saying it? Because when we talk about edible insects, we are talking about around 2 billion people that already eat insects every day. Because insects are part of a lot of different food culture. we can see that in Mexico there are many delicious insects that are eaten every day, like the larvae and the eggs of ant. Or for example, in Australia, the Wichetti grub is a big larva. It's a very common and appreciated larva. In Ghana and other part of the country in Africa, we can find many different insects like flying termites, but also caterpillar or others. And also in Italy and in Europe, we can find that in the history, for example, Greece and Romans eat insects, and we have also some cheese as casumarzu in Italy, in Sardinia, but also I think also in Germany and France, there are other type of cheese with larvae inside. So this just to say that probably for us, insects need to create this cultural change, but it's something that already is part of the food culture in the world. So this is to just conclude the part around the nutrition and sustainability around insects, because as we said before, here we have on the card A on the left the nutritional value and the resource used to produce 100 grams of cow meat, and on the right side we have the nutritional value and resource used to produce 100 grams of meat locust. So we can see that from a nutritional value, if we compare both, we have much more protein in the locust, okay, and less fat. And if we take a look on the consume of water, soil, energy, and the emission, and green gas emission, we have a very different numbers. So the question that we always ask after knowing all these things, why we don't eat insects, or why can we not try to eat insects? Giulia, if you want to say something about our...
I was waiting for the slides to go.
Okay. Sorry.
So to conclude, who participates to our events and especially to Entoexperience? The great part, so 60% are young people, so under 30 years old, and the 20% is between 30 and 50, and only 18% are over 50. What I'm trying to say with this is that the new generation are for sure more ready to the argument. We have seen hundreds of people in this year participating to our events, and we have noticed that the interest is growing a lot. Plus, recently a new law passed at a European level. So actually the insects you are seeing now on the screen, which are larvae, they are called Tenebrio molitor. These little larvae have been accepted at a European level. So now we can sell and we can eat these insects. So as you see, we have been doing a lot of steps forward, and I'm sure that the new generation are much more ready than the old ones to accept this new food. And it's important not only from a sustainable point of view, but also from a globalized point of view. I mean, we are a lot of times that someone asks me, why should we eat insects? The answer is why not? We eat so many food that we considered strange many years ago. So why not introducing also insects? Plus, they are very good, so they have a good taste. I understand it's difficult for someone to approach an insect, but as soon as people try insects, they are surprised about the taste that is good and is not that shocking as they imagined before. So the impact of food on our planet is more and more important, and edible insects would be a real sustainable solution. And for all the reasons we have just said, I think we are close to it. So I think that this was all, and I don't want to steal other time to possible questions. So I think we can conclude, and thank you all for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you very much to both of you for the super interesting presentation. I have some questions, obviously, but there is, I think, one person in our audience that wants to interact with you. So please, Melba, if you want to make a question, please, if you could also turn on your cam, we could see your face just to for a better interaction. Melba, could you hear us?
If you want to write in chat.
Or
questions.
because we don't know, because we don't hear you. You are muted in this moment and we could not really. Melba, if you want to put your question in chat, please do it. Sorry, I think it's a little of again, technical problem. Yes, let's start with my question because obviously she didn't arrive. Yes, you were pointing out that the fact that we usually eat things that are not really attracting, like, I don't know, shellfish. I remember to have eaten these pesebes that are like mollusks in Spain. It was like kind of strange experience to it's like an extraterrestrial animal that you have to in which you have to use your hand, you have to suck. So it's a super strange thing. So in which way, in your opinion, this kind of personal experience could be transformed, for example, by a food processing transformation or by a kind of different, I don't know, design perspective? So in which way we could intervene in that? It could be the taste experience, it could be the real food processing. What is your opinion about that?
Well, in our experience, I think that first of all, giving to the person that want to approach for the first time at insects, trying to transform insect, for example, in powder, or using insects inside a food preparation, let the first taste easier. Then we find out also that the shared experience is very important. Usually when we do our dinner, we do dinner around 10 to 12 people, okay? When they sit and they found themselves at the same table, usually they don't know each other, okay? And what happened that if there is just only one or two person that start to eat insects and start to say, wow, delicious, it's tasty, and so go on, the other people are facilitated to eat insects. So the share also experience, the fact that you share this experience for the first time with other people and people that probably you don't know, okay, also has helped a lot. I don't know if Julia want to add something about this.
Well, I think that the main problem is the legal problem. I mean, for sure, as Julia said, the first approach, the easier approach is when the insect is not visible. But I really noticed that people are also really curious to taste the actual insect. From a market point of view, it's gonna be very difficult and still very long. But I'm sure that if soon it will be possible to open a restaurant or a place where people can taste insects, that is the other thing that might have a lot of success.
So there is a question coming from Nicolas. I don't know if Nicolas want to show up. Nicolas, are you there? Could you?
Non posso.
Yeah. I try to read the question. I'm really interested in wild food and foraging for any kind of edible product. Insects are a big part of it in many cultures. Are there any guidelines about safety and foraging for insects in Italy and in Europe? I see chefs in the US starting to work with foraged insects, but I didn't find any information.
It's complicated.
Yeah.
It's complicated because it's true. It's the insect culture is not really on breeding insects, but in collecting insects in nature. So that's why it's that difficult to start a market with insects, because there are not a lot of information about how to breed insects, because the culture is more about, as I said, go and take insects from nature. The problem is from healthy point of view. So if you want to start a market of insects, you necessarily have to follow certain rules. So this is the difficulties. So it's so complicated now to solve this problem that no one is really focusing on foraging. Also because a lot of insects are in danger. Talking about biodiversity, so I don't think that they are focusing that much on this thing, also because of this. But it would be really interesting to connect insect problems with edible insects. I mean, we have been. I don't know if all of you read Italian newspapers, but we have these problems of invasion of locusts quite often in Sardinia. So that might be interesting. So collecting that locust and eat them in a situation that is critical, then it's really interesting. But spreading the idea of going outside and collecting insects that might be dangerous for your health and for the planet, then it's more sophisticated. So it might be interesting, but it's more complicated.
So a tricky thing.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, there is another question. I don't know if Ludovica could show up. We gave the permission to intervene directly. Do you want to make your question, Ludovica? Could you do this?
Hi,
Oh,
do you
fantastic.
listen? Oh, okay. Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Yeah, my question is, if you know, are there hygienic steps to follow before cooking or eating insects?
Okay, yes, in general, we have to imagine insects as non mi viene, lumache, scusate, non mi viene in inglese. Snails, scusate, okay, yes. We need to think that the process of insects are similar to the process to eat snails, okay? So in general, we have to leave the insects without food for 2 days, so 48 hours. Then if you have the refrigerator under 20 of temperature, you put them alive in the refrigerator for I don't know, at least 1 day. And then you have to put insects like 10 seconds in boiling and salty water. So in this way, using both heat, salts, and very low temperature, we can be more sure. Of course, this, if we talk about a domestic way to be sure that we can eat insects. When we talk about the hygienic steps, when we have to breed insects from an industrial point of view, so to breed insects to sell them on the market, the process is more complicated with many guidelines that the EFSA, so the European Food and Safety, give to the to who breed the insects, starting, for example, from the food that insects have to eat. Okay, so me and Julia, we usually we buy insects from a breed near Turin, so here in Italy. And it calls Italian Cricket Farm, and they are trying to get the certificate by EFSA to sell insects in the market. And so when we buy the insects, then we pass through the steps that I told you. So 38 hours without eating, then refrigerator, then boiling water.
Okay, so for example, to have the flour, it's more complicated, maybe.
To create the powder or flour.
You mean homemade or from an industrial?
No, for industrial point of view.
Well, it depends on which kind of powder you want to obtain. You can dry them and blend them, and you have a certain taste and texture. Then you can freeze dry. That is another technique, which is much more expensive because the machinery is very expensive. And then there is the molecular, I don't know how is it called actually in English, but you can obtain a very extra fine powder. It's a molecular process, and then you have to sterilize everything. It's more sophisticated. None of us is an expert in this field, so I can't give you precise details. But from an industrial point of view, there are different kind of techniques to hygienize and to blend them.
Thank you very much.
Also, depending on if you want to use it raw or if you wanted to use it in a product, or which kind of taste you want the result to be. It's quite articulated.
Thank you.
I ask if there are other questions coming from the audience, because I have one for you two. Is in your opinion, what could be the contribution, the next contribution coming from, let's say, a projectual kind of thinking, or also following Julia Maffei kind of capability, or from a scientific side? What is, in your opinion, the next moves that we have to do to develop this possibility, this opportunity?
From a scientific point of view, of course, increasing the research, especially the shelf life of the products, and how to maintain the good taste of the product. Because what we have noticed is that when you cook them fresh, they are much better. That's why I'm saying, I said before that a restaurant or something like that would be of success. So first of all, doing some research on how to conserve the good taste in products, and second of all, work on allergens. I don't know how if it's said properly, because so far they don't have a particular they don't seem to give particular allergy apart from the chitin, but the research needs to work a lot on this part even more. So this from a scientific point of view. Of course, we need to go on with the legal part. And from a projectile point of view, for sure, try to think something that people might appreciate and buy in the supermarket or in a restaurant or in whatever. There can be many ideas. I do believe a lot in street food right now, and I really think that insects could be a very good street food. But this is my idea.
Yeah. I think also. Sorry, Stefano.
No. I was because I think that the Julia Maffei was giving us a more scientific take, probably, but not so only scientific. But this discourse about street food is not really connected only to science. It's connected to everyday experience, probably in different countries. I think that in Far East or in Mexico, these kind of street food are normal. So it's sometimes we import a lot of things. Perhaps we could start importing also this. Probably you could add some consideration coming from a more projectual side. So
yeah, I was thinking that, like, I think that there are two aspects on we have to work. One is the educational aspect. As we said, our public, our target is young people, okay? And so young people also with the future job that they are going to do, they can really help to create new projects around the topic of edible insects and the topic that are connected to the edible insects. So also a course, the one that you Stefano lead and that the student will start to follow is fundamental in general to understand what food means, what there is around food, and how we can use food as a how can I say, as something that can really help us to make a change. Okay, so from a projectual point of view. On the other side, I think that we need to understand, to work more on how to communicate sustainability. Today, sustainability, it's a word that we use for many things. Sustainability has become a trend, and probably sustainability as a word has lost part of its inner meanings. Okay, so also thinking about a product, a packaging, or a campaign that could be around edible insects, for example, or other food that deals with sustainability, it's really important to understand how to communicate sustainability. Because today, when we talk to sustainability, the most of the people are annoyed about this word and about its meaning, and it's very difficult also to understand how we are really near to something that is happening, that is not the future but is the present. Okay, so also I think the communication or communication project around this topic can be really helpful.
Needs to become a trend.
Yes, I think that probably,
Yes,
you are right. I think that sometimes we expect that society changes us, but in reality, we are changing society. Just to say, from my personal point of view, I decided last year during the COVID pandemic to start becoming vegetarian.
Wow.
I started, and it was simply a choice. It's a motivated choice. So sometimes we could move a little bit from the idea that to change things, you have to be like a super activist, but you could change like with simple choices, your impact on environment. At the beginning, you showed us the ratio, the comparison between having a kind of omnivore kind of behavior or having a vegetarian one, or eating different kind of, yes, let's say human beings, even then they are living beings better, sorry. But I think that this is a further step. So if I'm able to accept the fact that I have to experiment something in my normal life to change the situation, so the environmental question, or introduce an idea of circularity within normal life, I think, yes, probably I have to convince myself there are barriers, but it's not, probably it's worth the effort, and it could be done.
Yeah.
It's not impossible. When we started discussing about being vegetarian or being vegan, yes, I don't know, like, let's say 10 years ago, it was like, yes, like they are a kind of credo in which there are super obscure guys that are experimenting this, they are totally crazy. And now you see that is a consolidated market share. And if you go into large distribution, you will see that this expansion of the vegetarian, vegan shelves. So everything could happen. Also, the idea that we could approach, starting from, as the other Julia was saying, from a normal experience and going to the Navigli and eat, I don't know, formigas, just to say, okay? Having a kind of different kind of aperitif over there, transforming this from a kind of experimental thing in which I have to pay attention is something that is a normal thing. Yes, an alternative thing, probably at the beginning, but it could be done. And moving from there, having a kind of scale up that is, in my opinion, also industrial, so it must take into account both the regulatory problems that both of you were mentioning during your presentation, but also the fact that this could be a kind of renovation of what we mean for agriculture. Because if I go to Michael Pollan's book, that was The Omnivore's Dilemma, no? There were this part of the book in which he was telling the story of visiting this farm of Joel Saladin, in which he was telling us the story of an integrated cycle. Okay, and I think if we have to rethink this agricultural integrated cycle, including insects, we have to change a lot of things. So it's a great opportunity both for scientists, scientific communicator, designer, also users, just because they are part of this effort, I think. I don't want to annoy you, but I think it's a super challenge, and it could open a lot of possibility in terms of entrepreneurship also. And you probably suggest us that something is already happening, because when you were mentioning your breeder, your preferred breeder, it was like going in very far away in time, in space, and imagining what was slow food when it started.
Yeah.
It was like that. Okay, it was like a small community of passionate people that will start to changing the world. So I think this could be done also in this case.
Yeah, true.
I don't know if we want to add something or reply, because we could ask also our audience if they have other questions for you.
I think that we said like everything. Of course, we are here in Milan, and we organize our event here in Milan. So if you want to try the experience together, or when you will start the master, or I don't know, if you are in Milan, just you can.
Yeah, if you allow me, I could share some word about this idea that in October we will start the master, and probably we hope that we have the possibility. Yes, Nicolò says, I have another question. So
Yeah.
Wait, Nicolò, that we could enable you so you could really stand up. Could you turn on your cam so we could also see your face?
I don't think that's a possibility. Maybe just the audio, because I don't see the option for the camera.
So go with the question.
Yeah, I go for it. So, well, I'd be so interested in joining you and at the dinner at some point, and I'll contact you for sure. But I have another question too. So I was thinking about foraging for insects, and for sure I didn't mention, I was mainly thinking about invasive species. But now I wonder, I believe it's not possible yet to buy alive insects for edible use if I'm like a private, right, in Italy.
No, not really.
Not
yet. No, not really. You can buy something from a producer that have the certification to sell it. But if you want to sell it yourself, or if you want to buy it in Italy, then no, it's not possible. But you can buy online. The problem, as I said before, is that we haven't found yet a good enough seller.
I just checked out the website from Italian cricket farm. Very interesting. I didn't know. And yeah, I saw they just say that they sent all the things to EFSA for approbation, and that they trust about the quality of their insects. So I wonder if I can use the reptile ones. That's not a thing.
Yeah, you can use them. I mean,
I could, right?
Yeah.
You should. Yeah. It's maybe not for everyone.
I mean,
you need to be not scared about it.
But for sure, if you are brave enough, I actually would invite you to buy them alive and cook them fresh. That's the best taste ever.
Yeah, that was the point, because we tried some insects at the university. I'm from the University of Gastronomic Sciences.
Okay.
But actually they were all dried from other producers abroad, and I think they really lost something.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
Completely agree. Yeah. That's what I was saying before, that we have to work on this, because the taste of dry insects is not good at all. That's why if you eat a product like pasta or bread or whatever you want with flour inside, that you have a protein value in addition and you use it in alternative to meat, that's one point, and it's a good point. But from gastronomic and taste point of view, then this one it doesn't really work for me right now, because the fresh cooked insects are much better.
Yeah,
Also, if you come to our dinner, we of course cook
absolutely.
fresh insects.
Yeah. No, we really want to come. We will make a group probably and to check out.
Yes,
Amazing.
but I totally agree. Yes, with what Julia was saying. Like when we start with Entonote, we start to taste and to try to decide which insects we want to use in our events. And like at the time, dried insects they were very, like they weren't tasty. So we had the problem to say, okay, how can we convince people that insects are good if we use insects that are not so tasty? So then we start to buy live insects. So having, I don't know, from 2,000 to 3,000 crickets at home. And we start also from when we have time, we also decide we decide to what to give to the crickets to eat, to
Wow.
try to change their final taste.
Amazing.
So yes, that also it's a different approach, but it works.
Sure. Yeah, no, that's very interesting. Thank you. It was very inspiring.
So you used like a Wagyu style of breeding, so giving them something very special just to transform them in something that are most tasteful.
Yeah, because they're very small, so they really I don't know how, but they concentrate part of some taste of other food.
Yeah, but the problem is that this is something you can think from a gastronomic point of view. From a commercial point of view, it's very difficult. I mean, it's already complicated to obtain the authorization to sell it.
Mm-hmm.
If you imagine to sell a product that have been feed with something for a certain period, then it's gonna be forever. I mean, it depends on what's your goal.
Yeah. Not for an
experiment. Exactly.
Yeah. No, not for an industrial breeding, but if you want to make a home breeding or I don't know, your
gastronomic experimentation, then yes, you can do whatever you want.
Yes, like having your ortus outside in the balcony, you can have your cricket breeding outside in the balcony, giving them what you prefer.
Fantastic. Just a conclusion, if you agree, I think that a lot of this contents and discussion will be part of our next to come master in design for food, in which we will try to put together two different cultures, I think, and category of experiments, one coming exactly from Università delle Scienze Gastronomiche di Pollenzo, the other coming from the Politecnico di Milano. So putting together this idea of transforming environment, our processes, coming perhaps more from the Politecnico side, the design side, but also including this idea of a wide perception of what the food system is, coming from the granularity of eating one cricket at a time in a gastronomic restaurant, and imagine that this could be a broader perspective that could really be introduced in society, so transforming what we eat every day. We put some information if you need to deepen a little bit this opportunity in the chat. We are available for you, and we hope also that in this new adventure that will start in October, we will host again the two Julias here. eventually doing something that has to do with explanation, something we do with tasting or process, showing better what could be an experimental approach on that, even if on the regulatory side we are not ready yet. So mixing, being forerunner forever, like an avant-garde that could really transform reality. I don't think if there are the last comments, last comments, last minute. If not, I could, yes, thank you, our presenters. Thank you very much for your passion and for giving us the opportunity to understand better this work that you did. And we hope to have you on board, another kind of session, perhaps more interactive without the necessity of enabling everybody with this rigid system and when the master will start. Okay. So thank you very much for your contribution, and I hope to speak soon to you again and have the occasion to present your work again.
Thank you, Stefano.
Thank you very much. Thank you to all of you.
Thank you to our audience, and yeah, I hope let's speak soon. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
everyone.
Have a good evening.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.